10 years alone. Then Bigfoot came. The fog rolled across the fence, swallowing each weathered post. James Harlow, a farmer who had lived in solitude for 10 long years, gripped his Winchester tight. His heart pounded like a war drum. Then the gate groaned with a long creak, and out of the thick white mist stepped a towering figure. Its shoulders nearly touched the crossbeam. Its fur drenched its breath heavy like wind rushing from a cave. In its hand, a woman. Her body frail clothes torn to rags, hair tangled with soil and pine needles. Bare feet dragged across the mud, leaving streaks of blood behind. James raised his gun, but his eyes froze as he saw the creature bend low. It did not fling the girl aside like some discarded thing. Instead, it placed her gently on the porch, even propping her up with a single finger as she nearly collapsed. Its gaze locked with his, not wild, not hateful, but carrying a silent message: take care of her. Then the figure backed away, melting into the fog, leaving behind deep footprints carved in the earth. James stood there paralyzed, whispering to himself, was this a warning or a salvation? Before we go on, leave the name of your city below, and when the story ends, don't forget to rate it from 0 to 10. How did they fall into such fate? The story begins with, James's farm lay tucked against the edge of a northern Washington pine forest. The path leading there was moss-covered, seldom traveled. A decade of silence companions, only the hooves of horses and the wind whispering through the eaves. After a night of rain, the ground was soaked, smelling of wet earth. He picked up his hammer to mend the rotting gate, never knowing that very morning would open a destiny beyond imagination. In his weary loneliness, he could not foresee that he was about to witness a tale far greater than any rumor told. Part 1. The Forest of Blood and Shadow. In fevered dreams, the young woman found herself surrounded by a pack of starving wolves. Their guttural snarls ripped through the night eyes, glowing yellow like ghost fires. With each step, they drew closer, foul breath spilling into the cold mist. She clutched a tree trunk, trembling, her mouth dry, heart racing, certain death was at hand. But just as fangs lunged for her throat, another roar thundered out heavy as rockfall from a mountain. The wolves staggered. Out of the darkness, a giant burst forward, fur bristling, eyes glowing red like embers. With a single sweep of its arm, it struck down the pack leader, blood spraying into the wet mud. It stood tall, shielding her like a fortress. The wolves snarled, circling, but each step of the giant drove them back. In that moment, she understood her fragile life had not been abandoned. A creature mankind called a monster had become her wall of protection, and in her chest flickered a faint spark of faith that sometimes what we fear most may be the very thing that saves us. Part 2. A Giant's Hand. A Gentle Heart. After scattering the wolves, the Bigfoot stooped down, lifting her with one immense hand. Her body was small, drenched, trembling in the night wind. Each step it took splashed mud and cold water, yet its arm never loosened. At times, it staggered, blood seeping from a wound on its shoulder. But each stumble only made its grip tighter, as if swearing never to let her fall. James, watching from his porch, stood frozen. He thought he was seeing a nightmare. But the Bigfoot's eyes, deep, sorrowful, free of hatred, shattered all doubt. When it laid her on the wooden steps and propped her back with a finger so she would not collapse, James felt his finger slip from the trigger. The tenderness was too real, too human. A thought sparked inside him. Not every hero wears the face of a man. Part 3. A Confession by Firelight. As firelight flickered against cabin walls, the young woman whispered, tears in her eyes. 3 days. No water. No food. Wolves circling. I thought I would die. But it came. It did not leave me. It stood guard all night, roaring until the beasts dared not draw near. It guided me across freezing streams. Each time I fell, it lifted me again. When my feet bled raw, it still carried me onward. Every word cut into James's solitude. For 10 years, he had believed the world was nothing but cruelty and shadow. But now a creature men called legend had appeared, rewriting everything. Quietly, he took her hand, eyes moist. Inside, a lesson rang clear: miracles arrive in the moments we despair most. Part 4. The Black Moon Night and the Giant's Shadows. The wind screamed, torches sputtered, and huge silhouettes loomed beyond the fence. James's heart-hammered palms slick as he clutched his gun. Roars boomed like war drums shaking the ground. He thought this was the end, a battle no man could escape. But from the darkness, one figure stepped forward. Slowly, it approached, breath heavy as a storm. James raised his rifle finger tight on the trigger, yet the creature stopped, lowering to the ground a bundle of green herbs tied with rawhide fragrance drifting on the wind. It raised its head and roared. From the woods, the others answered in unison. Then one by one they withdrew, leaving behind only the sharp scent of sap and damp earth. James stood reeling. Tonight he learned not every encounter is for bloodshed. Sometimes it is to place trust in human hands. Part 5. Dawn of Responsibility. When the first sunlight split the mist, James stepped onto the porch. Giant footprints remained pressed deep into the earth, some stained with dark blood, the mark of wounds suffered for her sake. He laid his hand into one track, feeling the damp chill, as if holding the forest's secret. Turning back, he saw the girl asleep, breathing steady face at peace. The bundle of herbs by the hearth released a soothing fragrance like a vow whispered, "We have done our part. Now it is yours." James looked to the distant woods, silently promising he would protect her. He would guard the fragile bond between humankind and legend. In that moment, 10 years of solitude dissolved into a flame of connection, of trust, of gratitude. And James understood salvation may come in the form of a giant in the fog passing through a man's life, only to leave behind a miracle. Echoes from the deep woods. As the first rays pierced the mist, James stood motionless on his porch. The giant's shadow was gone, yet its presence lingered in the faint fragrance of herbs carried by the wind and dried mud prints across the steps in the strange hush blanketing the forest. That silence no longer threatened. It reassured you are not alone. Inside the cabin, the girl stirred, eyes fluttering open with confusion. But when her gaze met James sitting close by, a fragile smile curved her pale lips. He answered with a small nod, a promise that life had changed. Through the night they had walked the line between death and life, and it was a creature of legend that pulled them back toward survival. James slowly fed another log to the fire. Flames leapt, lighting his trembling hands. Yet now that trembling carried no fear, only awe, only a sense of responsibility placed upon him. He knew his days of living solely for silence were over. A life had been entrusted to him. Outside, the forest wind whispered like the voice of the giant fading into the dark. James pictured those deep eyes still watching, not to claim debt, nor to threaten, but simply to affirm, "You understand, and you have accepted." In that moment, James whispered to himself, "Sometimes salvation does not come from heaven's light, but from a giant hand stepping out of the shadows, offering us a chance to begin again." And he knew the story of himself and the young woman was only just beginning. If you believe kindness can rise above fear, share this story. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next tale of Bigfoot legends.